Why do you do the things you do? I mean, it seems like such a simple question, right? But the answers are buried deep, deep inside our own minds, in our past experiences, and yeah, even in the people standing right next to us. So today, we're going to dive into this and uncover some of the hidden forces that are constantly shaping our behavior. You know that feeling, right? Where you look back at something you did and just think, why on earth did I do that? It's this weird sense that maybe you're not entirely in control, like some invisible current is just pulling you along, kind of making choices for you. Well, it turns out that feeling isn't completely wrong. So what is that current? Is it just your personality, your mood that day? Turns out it is way more complex than that. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on three incredibly powerful and often totally invisible forces that influence pretty much every single action you take. All right, our first stop is deep, deep inside our own heads. Long before we had brain scans and all that, people were absolutely fascinated by this idea of a hidden part of the mind, a sort of ghost in the machine that's pulling all the levers behind the scenes. And this is where the famous Sigmund Freud comes in. He came up with this pretty revolutionary idea that we're often driven by things we don't even consciously remember. See, his theory of psychoanalysis says that painful or traumatic memories, they don't just vanish. Nope, they get repressed, pushed way down into our unconscious, where they just keep influencing our fears, our desires, and our actions, all without us ever really knowing why. And this slide gives us a perfect way to picture this internal struggle. Think of your mind like an iceberg. Way down below the surface, totally hidden, you've got the id. This is your primitive, impulsive side. It wants what it wants right now. Then, at the very top, what everyone can see is the superego. That's your inner critic, your moral compass, the voice of society telling you all the things you should do. And then there's the ego, stuck in the middle, just trying to navigate the real world, constantly playing referee between what the id wants and what the superego says is right. It's a constant battle. Okay, so let's move on to our next big force. We're coming up from the deep unconscious to look at the ways our environment literally programs our behavior, a lot of the time without us even thinking about it. Welcome to the world of behaviorism. You've probably heard of Pavlov and his dogs, right? But the idea here is actually really profound. What classical conditioning shows us is how our brains can link two totally unrelated things. You take a neutral signal, like a bell, and you pair it over and over again with something that causes a natural reaction, like food. And after a while, that neutral signal alone starts to trigger the reaction. This is exactly why a certain song can suddenly make you feel sad, or why the smell of a hospital might make you anxious. Your brain has been conditioned to connect them.
But wait, we're not just reacting to signals. The psychologist B.F. Skinner showed that our actions are also incredibly shaped by what happens after we do them. This is operant conditioning, and you see it everywhere. Every single like you get on social media, that's a tiny reward conditioning you to post more. Every time you find a hilarious video after scrolling for 10 minutes, that's your brain being rewarded for scrolling. It's how our daily habits get built, little by a history of rewards we barely even notice.
So we've got the unconscious mind, and we've got our conditioned responses. But there is a third massive force that we have to talk about, and it is all around us all the time. Other people. Our behavior changes, sometimes dramatically, the second we're in a group. And this chart, wow. This illustrates one of the most chilling social effects ever discovered. In an emergency, you'd think that having more people around would mean a victim is more likely to get help. But the research shows the exact opposite is true. When you're the only person there, you feel 100% of the responsibility. But as you add more people to the group, that responsibility gets spread out, it gets diffused. Everyone just kind of assumes someone else will step up. And so, tragically, a lot of the time, nobody does. So why? Why do we follow the crowd, even when it means doing nothing? Well, it's often rooted in a really deep, almost primal fear. It's the fear of standing out, the fear of being wrong, of being rejected by the tribe. Those thoughts like, what if I look stupid, or people are going to think I'm a loser? They can be so powerful that they completely override our own better judgment, pushing us to just go along with what everyone else is doing, or not doing.
Okay, so we've looked at three huge hidden forces that are always at work. Let's just step back for a second and put all the pieces together. What does this all mean for that feeling of, not being in the driver's seat?
Well, it means that at any given moment, what you do is the result of this incredibly complex dance between these three layers. You've got your unconscious drives bubbling up from deep inside, you've got your automatic conditioned habits running on autopilot, and you've got the powerful, constant pressure of the social world all around you.
But here's the thing. This doesn't mean we're helpless puppets. Not at all. The first and most powerful step to getting more control over your life is simply to see the strings. To recognize these unconscious drives, these automatic responses, these social pressures as they're happening. Because once you can see them, you gain the power to question them. You can hit pause, you can challenge that impulse, and you can consciously choose a different path. The real question isn't whether these forces exist. The question is, now that you know they do,